Hello and welcome to the Tech Lunch Podcast, where we encourage our listeners to learn something new about tech every week. This can range from learning about new and exciting applications to the advancements in coding and technology. If you are always learning, you will always be a step above the rest. Take the time during lunch or during a break to listen and learn, kind of like a lunch and learn, but for the ears. This podcast will open the listener's ears to new and exciting technologies they may have not been privy to in the past. These topics will range from manufacturing technologies to data collection technologies and everything in between. Hello, I'm Nick.
Hello, I'm Ed.
And, this week, we don't, have John with us. He was out looking at houses. So, hopefully, he gets into the every sound's $100 club. Where one creek can be $200, another one could be $100, and so forth and so on. It's one of those things where you don't want a drip of water on your head. But, I digress. But, it's kind of funny that, we all come from a industrial, kind of background-ish, I guess you could say. I come from the IT side of the house. You come from industrial controls. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of talked about it before, like SCADA and stuff like that. We've kind of touched on that. We've touched on some of our preventative maintenance stuff using MQTT, or now you have that open AI stuff. You got open AI that can do your all of your preventative maintenance. But the one thing we haven't really talked about is the secondary side of the SCADA, or better known as an MES system. The manufacturing execution system. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much entire role in life is to, control production, at a manufacturing facility, logistics facility, or anything like that. Because the thing is, you have order data that comes in, then order data that leaves as soon as the order is completed, and you start production somewhere in between that time gap. So, when we're talking MES systems, what are you thinking?
So from from an industrial control side or from an OT side, basically what we're concerned with is basically the effectiveness of the operations on the shop floor. So from raw goods to the shop floor, processed through the equipment on the shop floor, mm-hmm. and then move through each station till it makes a final product. Mm-hmm. But what you're doing in that whole time is gathering data, accurate data. That accurate data is going back to your supply chain and say, yeah, we did not have any disruptions. Yeah, we had minimum defects with raw goods coming in. The other things that we look at is we had minimum defects in the process of making the goods.
Yeah, kind of like a just-in-time, just-in-sequence.
Yeah, and but not just in time and just in sequence. It's also saying that all of my data through that supply chain is as efficient as I can get it at this moment.
Yeah, first time completion, first time quality.
Yes.
And to me, I work in the the IT field that handles MES systems on mostly an everyday basis. If I don't, then it's probably a weekend. But the thing is MES systems are great. We start with order data, logistics data, and all that incoming into the process to let us know what we're building for that day. It starts our sequence off. It starts our sequence off at the beginning of the line. It tells us what raw goods we're going to turn into a finished product at the end of the line. And, from there, everything deals with either sequencing or a picking process. That I'm pulling my parts out of stocks and ranges to push those to the start of the line for them to begin building something. And, if that's missing, the system records a missing part fault. I don't have this. Give me a minute. Let me go ahead and put an order in for this. Or it deals with a system that, as that raw good is turning into that finished product, we're alerting suppliers as it goes down the line for those products to show up at just-in-time, just-in-sequence portions down the line, while measuring that first-time quality, first-time completion process. But the thing is the system also tracks where it's been, so you can always go back and look. And this is where you have some experience in, is if we do have a, an FTC or FTQ issue, and I can turn that back into a station, then I can go back and I can take that stuff and I can hand that over to my OT guys, to my maintenance techs, and say, hey guys, can you go take a look at the station for me? I'm getting a lot of scratches, or, a lot of dents, or a lot of warping, if you're doing plastic injection molding or anything like that, on those parts, not getting things done correctly. It's not just human-rated problems causing you headaches.
And so I like to look at it this way. I'm a manufacturer and say I've made red wheelbarrows for 50 years.
Yeah.
Then I was fortunate enough to get a contract to make red wagons. Well, of course, wheelbarrows and wagons are different.
Yeah.
But it's still raw goods.
Right, exactly.
So how does my process handle different models coming down the line? So the tooling is made to accommodate a range of tolerance.
Yeah, range of product.
It's got a range of tolerance that it can, I got from here to there, from minimum to max.
Right.
And that means that, say, I can do say a 3-ton or a 5-ton on the same line.
Right.
So that's where, when I talk about, the wheelbarrow and the wagon, you have to be able to not only go to the station and observe and determine what's going on, but you also want to know, do I run this more efficient? Do I run wheelbarrows more efficiently than I run wagons? Because I've had a lot more time and I've learned a lot more stuff from data points. I got a lot more data points from the wheelbarrow and not the wagon.
Right, makes sense.
So those are things also that the MES system can be utilized for, because it's not just the plant. The MES system is, maybe somebody orders 10 wheelbarrows that day and 50 wagons. Well, of course, we're going to run 50 wagons first. Even though we could probably knock out the 10 wheelbarrows, maybe quicker. But that's not how the system works. It's based off orders.
Right.
If I ordered 50 first, I'm doing the 50 first orders.
Yeah.
And that's one of the beauties about having an MES system that works with ERP, where it's tying all those things together so that you're being as efficient as you can be to reduce the cost, because at the end of the day, companies want to reduce their costs and maximize their profits.
Oh, yeah. And MES Systems is bound and determined to do that. It helps you do batch production. And that's the best part. It's, okay, cool, my line's tooled for this right now. Why change it? If I know it's going to take me 20 minutes, 30 minutes to change my line up to run something else, if it's not an automated format. For example, if you're doing plastic injection molding, right? I don't want to have to change my molds. I want to run. So I want to take my MES system and say, cool, I'm going to do, say, 50 Supermans, because I have a Superman mold in the molder right now. Okay, I'm going to run that. But now I know it's going to take you 20 minutes to change that mold. Okay, cool. Maybe I have time at a break for you to change that mold up after I run these 50, and then I'm going to run, 100 dinosaurs or something like that. It's because, if you talk about the automotive world and, your heavier industrial world, the system does it automatically. It shifts and changes based on need and based on order data that comes in from the MES system that tells the PLC and everything underneath it what to build. Right. Tells it what to do. Plus it alerts everybody on the screens and tells everybody this build information, what's being done at that station at that point in time. From there, you start really getting into, the connections to the shop floor. As we branch out, as we peel back that onion of an MES system, you can go TCP/IP connection to your shop floor. You can do Modbus TCP to your shop floor. You can do Siemens protocol, which is still TCP/IP, just in its own configuration, to the shop floor. I've heard of other ones. However, most of those are few and far between. Maybe you start talking about your soft PLCs, I guess you can say, which should still be the same way, but might not be. But so as you're peeling back the onion, you kind of hit that communication layer.
Right.
You know, so it's like, because as we go back, it's, you know, it's shop floor, PLC, or should say shop floor, robotics level, PLC level, interface level. You know, that's interfacing down to your shop floor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're dealing at a module based, you know, system where you have like a communication layer that handles like kind of like a how to put it, it's kind of like a highway, you know, an information highway. So kind of like an MQ,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where things go. You know, I can get quality data that comes in from my robots, and I'm saying that to a quality-based system. However, I have an open TCP communication port call to my PLC to tell the PLC what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I know from your side, you guys see it a little differently than I do.
Well, I mean, basically when we're talking about the shop floor, you basically got the automation level.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the SCADA system. And the SCADA system is the system that's drawing out all of the I/O points. The SCADA system can also be used for monitoring. The SCADA system can also be used in conjunction with batch control. So really the ether between the MES and the what we would call the shop floor, the industrial control system, it's a SCADA system.
Yeah, the ICS level.
The SCADA is what's transferring that data,
right,
in a traditional sense.
Right.
If we talk about, you know, Industry 4.0, we're talking a little bit different. You know, we got unified namespaces that you subscribe to whatever topic you're interested in, and you only pull those. In the old system, the conventional way of doing it, you pulled every signal.
Yeah.
That's not necessary in, say, if you use unified namespace. However, the thing to remember is there is data that, unless you have the right technology in place, like using MQTT and using unified namespace and pulling that data out of the controller,
right,
that data is not seen by the MES system.
Right, exactly.
Because that data is not being grabbed at a lower level. So you have to have an MQT system in place with brokers and so forth that you can set up unified namespaces that you can subscribe. So when I say subscribe, the SCADA system can subscribe to what it needs, and the MES system can subscribe to what it needs.
Right. So
I do not have to directly connect every system to each other. They go to a like I said, unified namespace, grab whatever topics they need, and then go from there. But the big thing with like the MES, from what I see, is like the scheduling. Okay, then your staff and resource management, your process management.
Yeah.
And then you also got to look at your performance.
The big ticket items. Yeah.
Your performance analysis. Say, for example, I projected to do 50 of these and I only did 45. Why?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Why are we -5?
Kind of like your advanced analytics day.
Yeah. So that's one of the beauties of having a good MES system. Yeah. And most people have someone design these systems because it's very difficult to build an MES system from scratch.
I've been lucky enough in my career to be there at the inception level, you know, for one of these systems, and you know, very, you know, happy with that, to an extent. But you know, it's funny that, you know, most of your MES system is a very simple beast. You know, it's really not. You have your DT, which is your delivery tier, or your front end of your database, or your front end of your system, a communication layer, and then we start breaking it down into your back end layers. You know, like for example, if you wanted to use a module based system or use a Docker Compose based system, where like your PLC communication can be in one Docker, all your other stuff be in another Docker, and they all communicate to each other. You know, some of that can be done through JBoss, for example. You know, if you're going through the ESB or the EAP sets, the systems, and then all of that pipes to pulls data from your database, and then pushes that through your delivery tier out to the human. And then, you know, behind that is your MEQ and your MQ layer. You know, most of them have MQs. And that's where we take in data from sister systems. you know, like SAP, for example. Or we send system stuff to SAP via the MQ level. You know, for example, if you're doing like scheduling or something like that. For example, at that point, I know that I can send from my MES system through my MQ to SAP to tell SAP that, hey, guess what? I need parts this day. Or I need this day. Or, you know, hey, I need, you know, this many gloves this day if I'm providing gloves to my employees the day of.
Yeah, you can take what you did in the previous weeks and determine what consumables will be needed at that point. And
right. And it also lets in like the connections to your heavy hit systems. So like your advanced analytic systems and stuff like that you're dealing with. You know, it's also the direct pipeline from your MES system to an advanced analytic standpoint. But with that, it also runs into the risk of, do you have people who understand this stuff? And you know, that's the headache, because the thing is you know, we say, you know, in you know, pretty much in IT, it's, you know, hitting keyboards. You know, eventually we'll get something, right? So, you know, where we like to talk, like what you may like joke around, push button maintenance. You know, the only problem is with an MES system, you can't do push button maintenance anymore because you are the master control system. If you mess something up at the master control level, it's going to slowly but surely find its way to the shop floor. You know, and then for some strange reason, you know, Porsche's building a scooter. You know, it doesn't work that way. You know, you can have a whole big oops.
Yeah.
You know, I can start, you know, building, you know, 1,000 purple vehicles. Last time I checked, no one wants to buy 1,000 purple vehicles. Yeah. You know, it's not the highest requested color out there.
Well, that's why I say the systems are hard to develop, because it's not the technology of connecting them, but each one of those protocols have a different way of communicating.
Yeah. A lot of Linux.
The other part of that is that on the shop floor, I'm not concerned from a technology point of view. I'm not concerned with how many widgets I made.
Right.
I'm only concerned with, am I within the parameters that I set up for this equipment? Am I putting out so many jobs per hour? And do I have any conditions from the condition monitor that said, hey, we're at a point where we're going to fail?
Yeah, or make sure you have parts.
Yeah, you know, what that part for the machine, it doesn't care. Yeah, like the shop floor doesn't care as far as equipment.
Right, equipment-wise doesn't care. It doesn't care.
The humans in the production system should protect for that.
Yeah.
And then you should have a mitigation strategy in place if something fails.
Yep. Line side parts and stuff like that.
You know, just like every places have cold and warm sites and hot sites. You have to have that type of countermeasure or mitigation strategy or something in place. Hey, the system's down. Well, get the paper. Let's get the paper and walk the floor.
Right. You know? And it's like, you know, the big thing is to also remember that, you know, when developing one of these systems, you can't out-develop the human being. Okay? You can try to. You cannot the human beings and the users on the operational level will surprise you every single day. They will do something with that system you've never seen before.
They will find a use case that was never thought of.
Right, exactly. And believe me, they do it daily. And boy, do they let you know about it. But you know, the thing is, if you're going to implement an MES system into your own plant, or location, or office space, or whatever, because if you think about it, you can take an MES system and tune it for Publix if you really wanted to. You know, ERP is an MES system technically. SAP is technically an MES system at certain points. You know, a logistics warehouse. You know, a logistics management system, or LMS. You know, that is an MES system. It's, you know, then you start getting into like automotive manufacturing. Of course, you have an MES system on board. That's what's telling you what to do. Same thing with injection molding. However, I was thinking about this the other day. You know the company Blackboard, correct? Blackboard is considered an MES. It could be considered in certain processes an MES system for schools, because I'm pumping out all of my material for you to consume. You consume that. You take a test on it. The test is a result of the process. Technically, that's an MES system. And the smallest way of thinking about it, Blackboard is considered an MES system. So technically, people use MES systems every day. They just don't know it.
Yeah.
Or it's called something else.
But and then the other thing, the thing about it also is it's a documentation management system.
Oh yeah,
too.
definitely.
I mean, there are things where you can have single point lessons in place. There's things where you can have, hey, these are the recommended parts or spare parts that we use. So that's another thing to look at. But some of the benefits, I would say, manufacturing cycle time.
Yes, that is one. Definitely, I agree with that.
You can take and tune your plant to a point to where it can run at about 85%.
Yeah, run like a sewing machine.
And what that means for you is you're getting it as efficient as you can, and even if you have a failure in your system, because it's running so efficiently,
you won't notice it.
You're not losing hours, days, or weeks.
You're not losing volume.
You've built it in to say, if I have a failure, this failure, as long as it stays within the time frame, because we're efficient. We're efficient at recovery.
Yep.
We're efficient at doing some countermeasures or mitigation strategies in place. Maybe we can do some semi-automatic stuff to keep the plant running somewhat until we repair whatever's the fault. Yep. So those are some things that you can take from the MES system to make your plant more robust.
Yeah, and document. For the love of God, please document. Because the problem is what we notice on occasion is that people build these MES systems, they don't write anything down, or they write too much. And then they lose the documentation because no one wants to read it. It make it usable for your user, please. I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen it where it's like, oh, look, we documented all of this. I ain't reading that. I'm not going to read something that's 40 pages long to get the gist of, okay, don't hit that button. Okay. Yeah. The thing is, it's like QRGs, quick reference guides, for every piece of your puzzle. Okay, cool. You have a logistics department. Here's a QRG of how to do logistics based on our system. Here's a QRG how to do production from our standpoint. But what you're looking at, maintenance. Giving them that documentation standpoint, which that's another thing. Okay, like you said, give it a place to do documentation. SharePoint is not an MES system, for the love of God. Stop calling it that. It's a documentation system. However, MES systems should have that functionality built in. I have yet to see one that has some sort of documentation system built into the darn thing that allows for pull down of single point lessons in case of major failures. If you think about it, I should be able to open up the MES system, either an app, tablet-based, computer-based, and open up a single point lesson that tells me how to replace a Lensa drive. That should be there. It should all be kind of compact, whereas I don't have to go looking 1,000 different locations to figure out how to replace something. I can just pull this up based on permissions, so always have an SSO installed, and based on permissions, let me go see that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, you can reduce or eliminate data entry time. You can reduce work in process, and you can also reduce or eliminate paperwork between shifts. If the MES system and the systems that are connected to it were incorporated correctly.
Yes.
If everything has back channels or channels where that data can be extracted and analyzed, then those things can happen. But if don't think you're going to put an MES system in and all of the things we just mentioned is going to happen magically.
Yeah, it's like Telegram based. You take that Telegram base coming from like a Siemens PLC and you convert it to a usable string. The usable string can then be inserted into your database as a timestamp. Okay, cool, I was at this station at this time. Don't be running a vehicle or part or whatever the hell you want to do down your line. And next, it's like, oh, I didn't know that hit that spot. But because I don't have a way to decipher, data to a, usable standpoint. It's also make sure that, when you're building these systems, shift calendars. Have a shift calendar set up, inside your MES system. And you can do that. That will explain what my shift times are, what my break times are. Have that control your equipment. And then also have in there, what is your shift target for the day? Did you meet that target or did you not meet that target? And the thing is you can take that target, and if you really wanted to, have it watch, that little watcher, can watch the timestamp and the location that you're trying to monitor for your release numbers, and it'll spit back that number every time something crosses that line. It'll always add one. I've never seen it, remove one. Mm-hmm. If it does, you did it backwards. And then from there you're going to keep up your count based in your calendar. So you can always go back and look at your calendar. Did I make the target today? And what shift did I not make the target? First, second, third, fourth, whatever. If you're running 5-hour shifts, then right. God forbid your data entry systems. Yeah. Well, they ain't gonna be very happy.
Here's another thing that maybe people don't think about. It lost paperwork. You can eliminate lost paperwork because I'm documenting the process the whole time.
Yep.
No one is writing down or putting on. Whiteboards are great in offices.
Yeah.
Whiteboards are not meant for the shop floor.
Yeah. Stop carrying those damn things around like they're a tablet.
You can have those. It's fine for when you want to do brainstorming, but that is not the tool that you need for when you have a downtime that you don't quite understand why it happened.
Right.
One other thing to think about with the MES system, it can also empower your plant operations people.
Yep.
Basically the experts on the line.
Yeah.
The people that are using the equipment, interacting with the equipment, hear the equipment every day, see the equipment every day, that's your expert.
Right, exactly.
That person understands how efficient or inefficient your process or the equipment you put in to do the process is at that moment.
Right, and I couldn't agree with more. Because, the thing is the big ticket item between MES systems is making it paperless. Making it paperless, for the love of God. So, make sure you work paper out of your systems. Be that quality-based systems or anything like that. Work paper out of your system. Because the thing is a lost piece of paper is a lost explanation. It's also a lost target. Because if you're sitting there at the end of the shift, using your little whiteboard, which I cannot stand whiteboards on production lines. Doing a check mark every time a vehicle exits or something exits the line. And somebody walks by and wipes it off. Guess what? Now you don't know what you're doing anymore.
And it's counterintuitive. It's
right.
counterintuitive for humans. Humans do not work that way.
Right.
Maybe when you were in kindergarten,
yep,
learning addition, but not in a highly productive plant.
Everybody get a smiley face. It's like, the thing is, it's also, you don't have to don't hook your MES system up to HR. Please don't do that. If you do, you can use that for your shift calendars. That'll tell you who's on shift at that time. That's just an option. However, the big thing is, and this is why I kind of have a really, 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 really deep hatred for whiteboards on production lines. They end up with those Rolodex paper roll things that people use at the sticky tab on the back of it.
Yeah.
It's the paper whiteboards now they call them.
Yeah, I know so.
So now I'm trying to engineer paper out of your system, but you're bringing more paper into it to write down a downtime that happens every couple hours. Y'all, do you know what a text message is? Or I don't know, Teams or email? Because you need to document this someplace. Because the thing is, if you lose that paperwork, or somebody goes there and wipes your whiteboard off, like I have the urge to do on occasion when I see them sitting there, you're not gonna know what your downtime is. You're not gonna know how you fixed it. I've never heard a maintenance guy go, "Hey, I don't know what the downtime was. Let me go look at my whiteboard real quick." And they're touring out looking for for something. We have that problem. That's why I have a deep hatred for it.
I think it's a tool that people use
for comfortability, probably.
Yes, but I think when we have, when you're trying to make a concept in somebody, make it concrete to somebody,
that makes sense.
It's easy to write it.
Yes.
On a board.
That makes sense.
It's easy to do models and show flows and stuff on a board.
Yeah.
But that's where
its
limitations start and stop.
Right.
It's fine to bring it to the line to document what was going on in conjunction with the alarm logs and your MES system and your SCADA systems. And if you're using Industry 4.0 and you have a unified namespace and you have a historian and all these type of things in place, then yes, it's good for that. But to have it there to say, hey, I did 20 of these, that's really, it's inefficient and it's kindergarten.
And don't put your, now the thing is, I'll say this, to piggyback on that, do not put your explanation, if you're going to write down what happened that day, kind of like in conjunction with your MES and your SCADA, don't put down the reason why the downtime happened on the whiteboard, because you're just going to wipe it off next shift, and without updating your alarm tracking system to say why the line stopped.
Yeah.
Because, once you do that, there's no way for anybody to go back and backtrack it. Kind of see what happened. There's no way to actually put something in the system that says, okay, cool, we had this downtime 3 times, but I fixed it.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is the other thing to consider is that you can also use the system for improving planning process.
Yeah.
So what do I mean by improving planning process? If I had a plant that ran for 20 years, it's the same thing that the petroleum industry do with down the hole data. I can take all this, what I call production line data, and that can tell me what was efficient and what was not efficient. And that could probably also lead me the next time to say, hey, this concept wasn't quite the right thing. It didn't give us enough flexibility. And you can project that out 5 or 6 years before the next plant is ready to be constructed.
That also helps with, like, if you think about it, with equipment selection. If I want to go, Siemens PLCs and ABB robots, I can see every single plant I've got that runs Siemens PLCs and ABB robots. And I can see what happened. Was it efficient? Or does the Siemens and KUKA robot and Bosch controllers and all this other stuff, work better? Or are we going to, like, Rockwell PLCs and the different robot manufacturers? Or are we going to, like, what they use in Europe, and you start talking about using, not Rockwell, I just had it off the top of my head.
So basically you have Rockwell, Siemens.
They kind of went defunct after a while.
You also use...
because we have them at the plant right now, or we did before we removed it. But, you have, I'll probably, gotta look. But, Schneider Electric, that's it. Or you have Schneider PLCs, and you have, KUKA robots, ABB robots, and whatnot. However, those are becoming more and more defunct as you kind of go across the pane here. Most of the time you're dealing with Rockwell or Siemens or a combination thereof. Unless you're in some older locations, which they do like using their Schneider Electric PLCs in some areas. Or hell, Schneider Electric is still around. Yeah. It's just we don't really see too many of them anymore.
So that's probably more of a product that's being utilized now in building automation.
Yeah, building automation, like a BMS.
Yeah.
Which you can, but the thing is, you can take that BMS and hook it up to your MES system if you really wanted to. Yeah. Because the thing is, you can hook it up to your calendar when to turn the lights on.
Yeah, but those systems there are more, like being used for that type of thing.
Yeah.
So Schneider does still have, like a good footprint, but like I say, it's mostly, I would say, it's building controls and maybe smaller machines.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. Not to say that somewhere else someone's not using it, but like I said, normally it's going to be Rockwell or Siemens going to be the two big players.
Yeah, and the thing is even if you hooked up a system like that to your MES, your calendars can tell you when to turn the lights on, when to turn the HVAC on, when to set all that stuff up and let it run, and also it'll help track your consumption, your power consumption, because you ran the line for this long, for this fast, for this hot. I ran the AC at this temperature for this long, and I can do basic math off of what my cost is. It's that's another way of doing it.
I mean, other than raw goods and labor, I mean, really the big hitter is the environmental things that you use in the plant.
Right.
So, HVAC, electricity, gas.
Yeah.
Those things are
air, water
are not cheap. Yeah,
right.
Air and water. So yeah.
And the thing is, it's like in your MES system can help you track all that. It can take all that into say SAP, so SAP will have the updated, numbers and stuff like that. But, the MES system itself as a whole package is one that if you're going to develop your own or a new one as a package, is talk to your local experts. Talk to the people that work on your floor every day. Talk to your guys in logistics. Talk to your guys in maintenance. Talk to your guys in operations. And kind of see, okay, what works for you? What do you need? What do you use on these old systems that now you need to use on new systems? And, the thing is this goes back to what we were just talking about, being able to take things from different plants or locations and see what worked. You can do the same thing with technology. Okay, cool. We're doing this process at this location. We're doing this process at this location. Doing this process at this location. And see if it works. However, I will say this: stop doing that. Stop trying to find a master system. Okay, because, and the reason I say that is the system does not always work the same way in all locations. If your equipment on the floor is the same, at least that variable has been excused of the process. The rest of it is, okay, how does this location do sequencing? How does this location do order fulfillment and order generation? Kind of like that. Don't try to make one master system where everybody's do it the same way. Because I'm going to tell you right now, that won't work. I haven't seen it work yet. If it does work for you, please tell us. I want to know how that goes. And it has to be more than one location.
Right.
But, MES systems is also up to the support staff that's sitting there, supporting it. Mm-hmm. Because they're the ones who have to understand how to fix these Linux-based systems, how to troubleshoot those type of systems using the logging software. We haven't really even touched on logging yet. And for an MES system, logs are great. I mean, Kibana is another one of those systems, Logstash, that can take all these logs generated by your system and actually throw them into one location, so you can actually track what that system does on a daily basis. And, from there, you can easily see, okay, cool, I'm going to have a failure in this part of my system because it's complaining about this one thing. And you can break that on all the way to your SSO. So you can be having your SSO logs going into your Kibana instance, so you can kind of see what's going on. That, and always run like a Nagios-based system on top of it, because with that you can watch what your servers are doing. Mm-hmm. Because unless you're a very small location, your environment won't be more than one server. It'll be 2 or 3 servers big, right? Mm-hmm. Smaller plants, smaller locations can probably do off of one server. And it'll kind of tell you what your database layer is doing and stuff like that, everything built into each other. But, having everything right there, being able to see everything, document everything, kind of set up a control room, the grand scheme of things. So, and then you start looking at, like the SSO layer, right? And permissions and controls. Mm-hmm. Every single group inside the facility should be in a different group. So logistics in one group, IT in one group, maintenance in one group, and those roles are defined by somebody that works as an expert in their field.
Right.
Because they know what they need. They know exactly what they need.
I mean, they're the customer, so the customer knows what's required.
Most of the time.
What's required for what they're trying to do.
Right.
So when it comes to their circle, I think, and we can probably try to wrap it up a little bit. I think the big thing with the MES systems is like the things we're talking about, the benefit things. I don't have to go and it's nice to go try to grab the guy that's been there 20 years and get what's in his head out. But if I've been tracking that data over 20 years correctly and interface my systems correctly, then I would just be, from him, I would get a confirmation that the data reflects what he saw.
Right, exactly.
It would be more of a check with that person, as opposed to trying to do an interrogation or trying to do an interview or not an interrogation, but trying to do an interview and draw that information out.
And, the thing is, it also goes back to the fact that if you're going to build an MES system, please have a production, integration, and test environment. And so, as you bring new equipment into the location, you can test it, or test new updates and stuff like that. Make sure it doesn't break anything. And then, once you get your integration, you start moving up your releases. Once you get there, so you have a little bit more equipment in your integration environment to make sure that things are working how they should. Utilize your UAT type of systems. Utilize that type of stuff. And then move into your production environment, which actually runs your floor. Please do not do any production-related work inside your integration or your test environment. Because if those systems go down, they're uncontrolled. So if you lose a test or integration environment, no one's really going to bat an eye or notice quickly. Mm-hmm. So don't hook up a production cell or zone or whatever you're doing, press, whatever, to your integration environment or your, test environment, and use it to produce production relevant material. Now, if you have some of that set aside and you have your own little test area, your own test PLC, robot, press, whatever, your own line, building for some people, hook it up to your integration environment. And then use that to make sure that your actual system will work with the next time you do a release.
Yep. I mean, so from supply chain to, final product off the shop floor, that's basically what the MES is great at.
Yep. Yeah. And, that kind of leads us to the fact that, we are, in the process of writing an ebook. Kind of titled for it is going to be titled, MES Systems Explained, where we will explain everything from the design standpoint down to the maintenance standpoint of a MES system, and a few little odds and ends in between that might make a little bit more sense. A couple of diagrams, a couple things, stuff that we're kind of passionate about. So, with that, I think that kind of brings us to the end for the day. And, I just want to say thank you. I was looking at the numbers earlier. We're at 1183. Who would have thunk of that one? We were just hoping the other day to get over 1,000. We were pushing that magical number to get over 1,000. So, y'all, we really do appreciate it. Go check us out on, a couple of the other social platforms. Go take a look at, blog.vulcanara.com. Go take a look at the YouTube channel, Vulcanara Technology Solutions. Go check us out over there. And subscribe to that the YouTube channel. It'll be in the description of the podcast and on the show notes. So y'all go check that out, and then hopefully we'll see you over there and give us a few ideas for some video stuff that you got going. Some stuff that you're wanting to know about. So I'm going to turn it over to Ed for the closing and the challenge of the week. So y'all have a good one.
So, guys, we appreciate all of the support. We appreciate the goals we've made. We'd like to, get more and more people involved. We'd like to build our community. We would like to have a community where we could have technology-based discussions and maybe even come up with new ways of looking at technologies that no one else did or has. And I would say this week, the challenge is which area is going to show the most support. So which area are we going to get the greatest amount of hits this week? That's the challenge. Represent your area. Make your area the best representation for hits this week on this podcast.
Yeah, share it with your friends, and let's see what happens. Let's see who wins, and we'll kind of go from there. Who knows? Well, who knows what's gonna happen with that? But all right, y'all. You have a good one.
Cool. Not too bad.
Thank you for listening to the Tech at Lunch podcast, where we hope you learned something about tech during your break or during your lunchtime. If you did, please give us a follow to prevent missing future episodes. If you have any ideas or something you want to hear or learn about, please send us a show idea to podcast@vulcanara.com, Hope you have a good rest of the day and continue learning.